The summer air hung heavy with humidity, the kind that clings to you like a second skin. Deborah felt it pressing down, mirroring the pressure building inside her. She'd been stuck behind a beat-up minivan for the last 10 minutes. Its driver seemingly oblivious to the line of increasingly irritated cars snaking behind them. Each agonizingly slow crawl forward only fueled Deborah's simmering rage. The minivan's pace wasn't just slow, it was deliberately infuriating. A series of jerky stops and starts, as if the driver was playing some twisted game of automotive torture. The sun beat down on her expensive sunglasses, reflecting in the perfectly polished paint of her convertible. Today, however, the gleaming red seemed to mock her rather than flatter her. It symbolized the frustrating stagnation, the way her perfectly planned afternoon was unraveling. This wasn't just about being late, it was a violation of her meticulously ordered world. The bumper sticker on the back of the offending minivan seemed almost cruelly ironic. "Keep calm and carry on," it advised, a stark contrast to Deborah's escalating fury. The irony, however, only served to sharpen the edge of her anger. She prided herself on her composure, her ability to maintain her calm even in the face of adversity. But this was different. This was a deliberate provocation, a blatant disregard for the rules of the road, and a direct affront to her sense of order. The world, it seemed, was conspiring against her, and, fueled by the heat, the incessant horn honking from cars behind her, and the creeping sense of lost control, it wouldn't be long before she'd snap. Deborah's finger, usually so elegant and precise, trembled slightly as she punched the numbers into her phone. The 911 operator's calm, reassuring voice was a stark counterpoint to the roaring chaos inside her. She struggled to articulate her complaint, her carefully constructed sentences dissolving into a torrent of frustrated accusations. The slow minivan, in her mind, had become a symbol of everything that had gone wrong that day. The mundane inconveniences, the missed deadlines, the irritating email from her neighbor. It all coalesced into this one frustrating encounter. In her mind, she wasn't just calling to report a traffic violation, she was summoning justice. The sirens wailed, a shrill, intrusive counterpoint to the simmering heat. The flashing lights, red and blue, painted the scene in a frantic, distorted reality. The police car pulled up, its authoritative presence immediately shifting the dynamic of the situation. The officers, professional and detached, listened patiently to Deborah's account, their expressions betraying little emotion. The minivan driver, a mild-mannered woman named Susan, offered a quiet, apologetic explanation. She'd been distracted, she said, by her son's sudden illness. She had to get to the hospital. The child's drawing on the back window. A simple son with smiling rays. Was a jarring counterpoint to the intensity of the situation. It was a poignant reminder of the mundane, human realities that often got lost in the heated exchanges of daily life. Suddenly, the gravity of Deborah's actions settled upon her. Her carefully constructed Section 8 of control began to crumble. The anger, the righteous indignation, began to give way to something else. A dawning awareness of her own overreaction. Shame washed over Deborah, hot and heavy as the summer air. She watched as the officers spoke to Susan, their expressions betraying a mix of understanding and perhaps a hint of weary resignation. The meticulously planned day, the perfectly coiffed hair, the expensive car. None of it mattered now. What mattered was the realization that her anger had blinded her, turning a minor inconvenience into a major drama. The image of the child drawing on the minivan remained stubbornly imprinted in her memory. Deborah walked away, the silence of the street a stark contrast to the previous cacophony. The red convertible, usually a symbol of her success, now felt heavy, a burden of her own making. The heat seemed to intensify, amplifying her sense of embarrassment and regret. She realized she'd let her anger consume her, transforming a simple traffic delay into a farcical, unnecessary incident that had upset not only herself but also another driver and perhaps even a child. The trembling in her hands was not from anger now, but from a deep-seated unease. The incident served as a harsh lesson. It wasn't merely about the traffic. It was about her own inability to control her emotions, her need to always be right, her almost arrogant expectation that the world should bend to her will. The day had become a sobering reminder that life's minor inconveniences don't always require such dramatic responses. The setting sun cast long shadows, stretching and distorting the familiar landscape. It was a visual representation of the way Deborah Hayuro's perspective had shifted that afternoon. The day had started with a meticulously planned schedule, fueled by an unshakable sense of entitlement. It ended with a humbling confrontation with her own flaws, a realization that sometimes, the most effective way to keep calm and carry on is to simply breathe and let go. The red convertible, still gleaming in the fading light, seemed less a symbol of triumph and more a stark reminder of the consequences of unchecked rage. The minivan, a tiny speck in the fading light, disappeared down the road. Deborah knew that she would carry the weight of this day with her, a constant reminder of the importance of perspective, empathy, and self-control. It was a lesson learned the hard way, a lesson born from the frustrating heat of a summer afternoon, and a 911 call that went drastically wrong.